Hello and welcome to IV Games Weekly. This is Austin Harrison. This is our first home edition of IV Games Weekly. I am joined by Zach Dixon, who is also at home, and Gary Alaka, and who is also, I'm assuming that's your house, Gary. Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Nice. Did the audio of the actual show also start playing for you?
Yeah,
that's what happened to me. It was a great moment. It was great. But yeah, so fun news from IV world. We found out this week that our offices are no longer going to be our offices. So we are, in the process of moving out, and now we have home setups for this show, among other things. But it's been, it's been a wild ride the past few days. But we are here. We've made it.
We are here. How do I always manage to have one tab with the video open? I closed two of them. I have no idea how I missed that third one. But anyway, sorry about that, Gary. Really excited to have you on the show. We've been talking since your guys' Kickstarter campaign, the first one. So it's been a long time, but it's nice to actually see your face. But Congrats on that campaign. Congrats on the expansion. I mean, you guys have been really killing it, and really excited to see what you guys do in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah. So we talked on the phone a little bit earlier this week, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, but it was like, you were like, yeah, when we launched, we were like expecting it just to be, we'd sell a few hundred copies and we'd have fun and we get to say we made a game, and then you guys blown up. But the actual story of Rival Restaurants started way before that. Can you tell us kind of about how the game got started and then how you got involved after that?
Yeah. Let's see. So at this point in time, we're talking 10 years ago, is when the idea of Rival Restaurants begun. So to give you a little background, so the company, Gap Closer Games, right? There's 5 of us, longtime friends who kind of got together to make this happen. But before I even knew most of the people on the team, Rob Chu, who's the designer of the game, he's in college. This is like 2011, maybe 12, and he just decides, let me just design a board game just for fun. So he starts putting together this really, the version 1.0, if you will. And this is, we're talking, a shoebox with some, back of the lecture notes type artwork, some nickels and pennies for the coins. And he puts this whole game together. And it's a draft, but it's a complete game that you can play, if you have a few hours. And at the same time, a mutual friend of ours, Audrey Jung, who is the artist of the game, she happens to be in art school and she needs a project for her, kind of like a final thesis or your final project. So she takes this, box from him, and she spends the next 9 months creating this entire world. So, restaurants and recipes and chefs and every piece of art, which, I mean, you guys know, like, art is super expensive. And to have that done essentially, as a student, where it's, mutually beneficial, it was just such an incredible thing that she put together. And she actually goes out, she prints a box and she pieces it together where when it's finished, it looks like a playable, workable game.
Yeah.
So this is like, 2012 or so.
Yeah, to cut you off real fast, Gary, how often does someone say, yeah, I had a student do that artwork and it turned out as good as Rival Restaurants art? Because that doesn't seem like it's a student making that.
Yeah, no, she is incredible. I mean, even then, her quality was insane, and she's only gotten better and better as time has passed. So she finishes this game, she gives it back to him. He's blown away. Like, this is so cool. Like, the game has come to life. But then, life gets in the way, and he spends the next maybe 5-6 years just sort of going about. And it wasn't until 2017 when he had like kind of like a demo, like, come play the game, have dinner. And I grew up with board games. I play them probably more after college. So I was like, hey, like, free food, like, I'm there. So so I show up, we play this game, and I am just in love with it. Like, it's everything that I want in a board game. It's super fun. It's beautiful, and it's like, hey, my friend made this. Like, how cool is that? So then, we play the game, and the funny thing is that very night, so John, who is another member of the team, he loved the game so much that we all live in Southern California. But if you're ever into LA, it's like we're talking, from point A to point B can be like 2 hours just to get there.
Oh yeah.
He plays the game and loves it so much. He drives back to pick up a copy so he can play it that same weekend. And we're talking like a 2-hour drive there, 2-hour drive back, just so he can have it for the weekend.
Wow.
So like, he's in love with it. Yeah, that is. And then, fast forward, now it's 2018, and the question kind of comes like, hey, how do we like make this a reality? And none of us have any publishing background. We play board games. They don't really, make board games. But we dove into the whole world of conventions, Kickstarter, and just everything there is to know. And then here we are. We made a game.
Yeah. That's incredible. Okay, so I want to see if you had the same experience. So the first time I went to a convention with Moonrakers, it was just like in a bag, and I just like walked around looking for an open table, and I was like, I am so embarrassed to ask anyone to play this, like, because like it hasn't been played by anyone except for me and Zach and a couple of our friends, and it was just like, I am terrified to try this.
Oh yeah, and they don't know us from anybody. We're just some random guys walking around.
We're random people.
Will you please play this, please, maybe?
Gary, was that you guys too, or did you have a booth?
No. We didn't know booths existed. So we didn't know conventions in board games were a thing, right? So our first convention was Kingdom Con in San Diego, which I think they discontinued a few years back. So we go down there, and my memory of it was, I thought I was into board games until I showed up to the convention and realized,
I've had that feeling.
Oh, yeah, this is board game culture. But for us, we have a pretty, we're all very outgoing, and we are very, what's the word? We're loud, we're very animated. So I think when we showed up, like people were like, who are these guys? What are they doing here? And they were kind of drawn to that. And I think one thing that I tell other creators is don't go alone, right? It is terrifying to sit there and be like, hey, can someone please play my game? Like I'm just sitting here by myself. Like it's awkward, right? So it helped that there was 3 of us that went. I think my wife came to the first one, so we almost had a full game going. So if one person came, they're just hopping in. We start the game going. Once you kind of break that seal, then it gets much easier, because then people start coming to you and they're like, oh, what are these loud people in the corner doing? So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's exhausting too. I'm always just like absolutely wiped by the end of those conventions, just like asking total strangers to play a game and then explaining it, and just like, I don't know. I think that maybe that might energize Austin, but for me, I'm just like, I need a nap.
Well, yes, but I went to my first couple of like local conventions alone, and that was a little bit terrifying. And I actually remember bribing a table of people that had just finished a game to play Moonrakers, and I said, I will buy pizza and we will play this. And that was like one of our very earliest play tests, and it worked. They were like, heck yeah, you want to give us free pizza and let us play a game? And then I was surprised when they wanted to play a second game of it right after that. So I was like, oh, I don't have to bribe people to get them to play this. This is great. So that's incredible. Awesome. All right. I interrupted your story again. So yeah, keep going on. Tell us how rival restaurants happened.
Okay. So basically the conventions were sort of the first, like you said, the first time we're bringing this game out of hiding. Friends and family, like, they're going to love your game no matter what you make. Like they're not going to sit down and critique things and point out all the errors, but hopefully, yeah. But once you kind of, get out of that first line, you're going to get people's, real reactions. So we used that time to really fine tune the game. It was still in development, essentially, taking feedback, cutting down the time from, I think it was like maybe 3 hours when we started, down to like 45 minutes is where we wanted it to be. Yeah. Which I like the 3-hour version, but that's me.
Yeah, that's a commitment for sure. That's a big cut down. That's really surprising, and I
Yeah.
can't
I'm
imagine it was
impressed.
super
Yeah,
easy
I'm
to
impressed
do.
you guys were able to do that.
We had so on the design front, so the whole game, right, the concept is you are cooking recipes and you're acquiring ingredients and you're scoring points, and we had a mechanism in the game where you had like a fridge, you had an oven, you had a knife set, and you kind of had like these kind of like prerequisites before you can do certain actions, which I love. Like I'm all about, kind of like building up my kingdom and, upgrading this, upgrading that. But we realized like everyone has to get a fridge eventually. Like everyone has to get an oven eventually. Like you can't play the game. So just cutting out sort of that front half, that probably shaved like 45 minutes to an hour off the game.
Nice.
And that was
That's
something
great.
that, we kind of learned, through the through playtesting. But convention after convention, kind of getting the word out there. And then we have a local competition here called Indicate. And it's primarily video games, but they have like an analog section as well. So we submitted the game, it got us some publicity. We ended up, being chosen as one of the, 50 finalists. And we didn't win, which was actually the best thing ever, because the way the convention is set, it's not even a convention. It's more like a show for people to kind of come through. But because it's a digital first show, they would put all the winners like in these classrooms. It's held at a college. They put them in these classrooms, and the idea is you walk up to them and they'll show you their video game, right? You can kind of play it, and it's you sit in front of them and you watch the game. But if you have a board game, it's kind of like awkward to like, you can't demo a board game when you're just, sitting across from each other, especially our game, it's a, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 player game. Because we didn't win, we got to be in the main lobby where everyone passes, and we just set up the game, and people were just coming through and playing and laughing. So
that's
that
awesome.
was a huge boost for us.
Table placement is so important at cons. It's wild. So a couple of things from chat. One person says we should go to Dragon Con. I don't know where that is, but I mean, with a name like Dragon Con, I would love to go to it. Have you been to Dragon Con, Gary?
No. We've only done.
We haven't.
Let's see. We've done the local one, so it's like Strategicon, which is like Orcon, and I forget the other names of the Strategicon. We did Kingdom Con, and then the big one that was in Philadelphia, PAX Unplugged. That was a
nice
19 and 18.
Nice. We still haven't been to PAX Unplugged. That's very, very high on my list. We've been to other PAXs. We haven't been to PAX Unplugged.
I've loved going to all the PAXs that we have been to.
Yeah.
But not gonna lie, I used to ignore people asking me to play games at PAX. You are not alone. Most people just ignore me. So it's you are not alone at all, Chuck. Don't even worry about it.
But that's important. That's important for creators to remember. It's like sometimes people say no because they're shy and they don't want to have a conversation with a bunch of people they don't know. It's not because your game looks dumb.
Yeah.
So
no, I get it.
Or they have places to be, things to do.
But on that point, one thing I learned from conventions was I thought that I was kind of like bugging people, asking them to play a game. But then I realized if you're going to teach them a game they haven't played, you're saving them, 30 minutes of reading the rulebook or whatever it may be. So you are sometimes doing them a favor, as long as they want to actually play your game.
Totally. Yeah.
No, that's great.
It's the worst trying to sit down and learn a new game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So how did you make it to Kickstarter then?
We just woke up, pressed launch, and see what happened.
That's it. That's all.
We did a lot of research. Huge kudos, and I'm sure every creator kind of has gone through the Stonemeyer Kickstarter blog, which has to be like, I think 300 entries at this point. We read through that. We backed a lot of campaigns to kind of understand just the ecosystem of updates and comments and stretch goals and just how the whole thing works. I remember one campaign that actually launched a little before us was Chai, their first campaign, and I was like, whoa, like you've got to show off the art, you've got to show off how well put together it is. And we had I think we had 2 reviews lined up, and we were like, well, here goes nothing, and we just launched.
Was one of those Mark Streed?
Yes.
Because
So
the reason I asked,
had him, yeah.
The reason I asked is we love Mark Streed. He's done a couple of things with us for Moonrakers and Veiled Fate, and he said, I saw a quote from him that Rival Restaurants was his family's new favorite game, which is huge praise from Mark. Yeah. So congrats on that. That's a really cool win for y'all.
Yeah, he was awesome. He is such a cool guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us about your expectations for your Kickstarter. Because I mean, you said you had 2 reviewers. 2 reviewers is probably a little bit less than what most people would say you should launch with. Like, what were you guys thinking after you pressed the button around like how many backers?
So this is the first campaign. Our goal was 30,000, which looking back is an insane goal for a first time, no name creator. But I mean, just the numbers were like, to print that many games and ship them around the world, that's what you need. And that's not even all we need. Like, we have our own money trying to kind of, support that.
Totally.
So our expectation was we'd get maybe like 300, maybe 400 backers, and then, kind of trickle our way to, and maybe end with like 500 and call it a day. And we ended up, let's see, the first campaign with like 4,000 backers. I forget the exact number.
Yeah. I was going to say over 4,000.
It caught fire. Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. And you mentioned Chai, it's their first Kickstarter, which was absolutely beautiful. It is so nice to have a Kickstarter come out like a few months before that you're like, oh, that is what we want ours to feel like. We want the page to feel like. We want like, okay, they used a big art splash there. We should probably try to use a big art splash here. And for us, that was actually Title Blades, which I just got in the mail from James. So I'm really excited because Zach was going to fire me because I didn't back that. But James was nice enough.
It's all right. We got it.
Nice.
No, yeah, that was like our big reference. We were on that page all the time. We loved all the they did some like cool animation stuff, and we're like, oh, we could do that. That sounds great. So it's always great having those examples to go off of.
Yeah, and funny enough, Gary, Rival Restaurants was another one of our examples. It was a page that we looked at a lot. That was like, this is a great page as far as flow, and so I'm really pumped about that. So I actually forgot to say something before we jump back into talking about Rival Restaurants, Gary. You guys are nice enough at Gap Closer Games to give one of our viewers a game of Rival Restaurants, and the way that you can get that game, viewer, is to comment in some way in our comment section, Bento Box. So you have to make a comment that involves Bento Box. The reason it's Bento Box is Zach and I really, really love the Bento Box insert for Rival Restaurants. It's a beautiful thing that you guys did, Gary. It looks really amazing. But yeah, so comment somewhere after the stream. You can't comment until the stream is over. Bento Box, and tomorrow around this time, or actually probably Monday around this time, I will go back and let whoever won know in the comment section, and then we'll send that to Gary, and Gary will send it to y'all. So yeah, make sure you do that. Gary, a couple things that I really loved about Rival Restaurants, and something that we tried to do with Moonrakers too, is that you guys had very little downtime in between turns. Was that always the case, or was that one of the ways that you sped up the game? The like simultaneous action stages.
Yeah, that was the core. So when the way we've had the game described, it's like a Euro party game, right? There's this notion of you're always doing something, you're always involved in the game, as little downtime as possible. I think for me, like, that's what drew me in. I was like, I've never played a game where I'm like not waiting for my turn. And it wasn't until I started playing Rival Restaurants that I started to notice that, oh, when a game has like too long of a down phase, it kind of just, I don't know, it becomes a bit of a distraction. So certain games I'm like, let's just play 2-player, because 5-player takes a little too long for my liking. So yeah, so that was always from the start, like the core mechanism of the whole game is built around.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. I'm in that like kind of situation where like I just like look at people and I'm thinking about like all the ways I'm going to take my turn in like 10 seconds and do it as fast as possible. And then other people don't play games like that. They like to take their time and they like to think about it. And that's not a bad way to play games. But when games allow for that and allow people to do things at the same time, it's one of my favorite mechanics. So I guess it's not really a mechanic. One of my favorite feelings. I don't know, but
or like game style. Yeah, no, all of our games thus far have like really high like off turn involvement, and I think that's just something that like our sensibilities just like align on, and we really just enjoy games like that. So I'll always love to see that. It's like one of those qualities that I'm always looking for in a game. Just 'cause I like to be moving, you know. I like to it's gotta grab me, hold my interest, and never let go, you know. So that's really fun. And then you did an expansion, which is also very cool. And we are in expansion mode right now. We're working on some expansions for Moonrakers. And so what was that process like? Like any advice or any particular like framework that you all use when it came time to add on to the base game?
Yeah, so we wanted the expansion to not just be more of the same content, but also to add a little bit more, a little more sizzle, a little more pizzazz to the game. With a restaurant themed game, cuisine themed game, like there are thousands of dishes we can put out. So we kind of approached it with like, okay, what foods do we want to incorporate, right? So for the expansion, we added German, we added British, we added Indian, we added Jamaican, we added Greek, and we added, I am blanking on one, I feel really bad. I remember it at some point. So we added these new cuisines, and some limitations are like, we already have ingredients set for it, so we have to make sure we're only kind of incorporating those into the dishes. But in terms of a new sort of mechanism, we wanted to add something that changed how the game plays. So we have this thing called the event deck, where essentially it's like an action that affects all players each turn. But it's not like a random action where you don't see it coming. It's more like it comes out. So it's like, it's going to happen next turn. So you can kind of prepare for it, and then it happens. And then another one comes out saying it's going to happen next turn, and then it happens. Nice. So it adds just enough of a twist where, if you have your strategy in mind, you can sort of pivot to respond to the action, or you can stay in your lane and just do what you're going to do anyway. So it adds a little bit more strategy that like makes the game a bit more complex. So I always say, if it's your first time playing it, don't use the event deck. Get used to the game first, and then throw it in and have some fun.
Yeah, we have that conversation a lot too. So in learning a game for the first time, please don't include an expansion unless it is an expansion that makes the game easier to play in some way.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of this.
I think the only one Terraforming Mars
expansions. Okay.
Terraforming Mars. Everyone says you have to start with the one expansion. Dang it, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it just makes the game faster and maybe. Anyway, but definitely like it's like a fix expansion, not a fix, but it like lowers the game time, and a shorter game time for first game's usually going to be preferable. So, yeah, I'm sure someone in the comment section will be like, "It's this one, Austin. You always forget."
I'll bring in some of the expansion cards for Dominion on a first playthrough. Because like that's curated just it's like easy cards and things like that. But no, yeah, I mean, you always got to start with that base game, especially if you're adding new mechanics. But no, that's really awesome, and that Kickstarter campaign did super well as well. What was the time difference between those two? It's like
about a year apart.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, was that kind of the plan the whole time? It was like we're gonna do our Kickstarter, and then we're gonna go. You just went
black, Zach.
Expansion. Oh no! I'm gonna try and fix that. I'll be back.
All right. Yeah, Gary. If the question was, did you plan to launch an expansion around the time of delivering the first version of the game?
So once we decided to make an expansion, that was the earliest we were going to release it. So we we never were going to make an expansion until really we funded and was like, hey, there's something here. You might hear a dog in the background. Don't mind that.
Yeah, no worries.
So when we started working on the expansion, I mean, it takes time to go through anyways, but it ended up working out where we were at a good place with it around the time that fulfillment begun. And then we wanted to make sure the games are out there. They've been delivered. People have had a chance to play them. And then we were able to launch the expansion. Basically, it was like, I think it was to the day a year after the first campaign ended. It kind of worked out in
That's awesome.
some weird way. Yeah.
That's incredible. You were right, by the way. Someone in the chat did say Prelude is the expansion for Terraforming Mars that people recommend playing with from the beginning. Yeah, we kind of got lucky in the same way, Gary, but it was launching Veiled Fate right as Moonrakers delivered. However, it was also unlucky because there was no downtime in between. And so we were like dealing with all the customer service of Moonrakers while trying to launch Veiled Fate. And oh my goodness, it was too much all at the same time. But luckily, it was amazing because Panda, our manufacturer, was like, hey, we need to include like a paper in here that will like separate the cards from the board so they don't get messed up during transit. Do you have like any type of ad or anything you'd want to put in here? And we were like, yes. And it's like literally people got their games, opened the box, and there was an ad for a Kickstarter that was basically live in a week. And so it was just like, it worked out so well. So it's awesome to hear that you guys also worked out your timing to be perfect. That's really cool.
That's awesome.
All right. Zach, you're back. It's great to see your beautiful face again,
Welcome
but
back.
now I can't hear you. You're muted.
We can't have it all.
Over now.
Hey, you're back.
Okay, cool. First day at home, the first show at home, there's got to be some technical difficulties.
We already had
luckily,
I already had one.
Plug it in and unplug it, it worked wonders. So
turn it off and on again.
We're back. Yeah, it's always the fix.
Yep, definitely. All right, so Gary, some other cool things I learned about you on our call is that you guys have gotten into doing a little bit of mentoring for people that are trying to get started in the industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I wanted to say it was Tabletop Mentorship program that you were involved with. Yeah, and
go
ahead.
Thanks for mentioning that. So we let's see, this is back in the fall of 2020. I got involved with the Tabletop Mentorship program, where they were looking for designers or artists or content creators or publishers, kind of with different expertise, to kind of just walk alongside other people and aspiring designers and whatnot. I got matched up with two individuals. One was working on a RPG, which I don't have a ton of experience in, and I was like, I can help you, but it's going to be very limited in terms of the content I can share. And then the other was a board game that's going to be coming out hopefully this summer. And it was just such an enriching experience because as you kind of talk about like your experience, you realize maybe it helped, maybe it hurt. You're not even sure if it's solid advice, but it kind of helps you kind of like talk through it with somebody and really think about what helps you get to where you are. And for us, it was really giving back to what we experienced when we first started, where people, I'll send a message to someone on Instagram, be like, hey, I saw your campaign. Do you have a minute to chat about what you guys did? And without fail, they're like, yeah, sure thing. Let's hop on the phone. So that was super encouraging to see. I think how creators helping creators is the norm. And I think we just us trying to pass on that tradition.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you were talking about the Stonemeyer blog and just getting to look at other campaigns. And we've had a really great experience in the industry of just tons of people willing to give advice and to help in a lot of different ways. One of those people being Mark Streed, who we already talked about. And it's really great to see you kind of giving back in like a formal way. I actually didn't even know those existed until we talked. I'd heard about it for like content creators, but not for designers themselves. But you're right. Like telling someone else like how you did something and how it worked for you really helps you to remember. Like you have to be introspective and be like, okay, what was it that we did that was successful? Like how did we manage this or whatever? And Yeah, it's really cool to hear you talk about that, and I hope that we continue to learn from each other, because we haven't done expansions yet and have no idea what this is like. So
Absolutely.
So
if someone wanted to get involved with that, how does one go about kind of joining that program?
So I believe, I don't know the exact website. It's probably just Googling Tabletop Mentorship Program. There's two individuals who run the program. Their names slip my mind. I apologize. But they put it on. It's a 3-month program, or maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 weeks. And it runs pretty often. I think they just did another round recently. But I would just say, like, you can go to their website. They're pretty active on Twitter as well, and kind of look into it. And they're always asking for, you can apply to be a mentor, or you can apply to be a mentee. And then they do a really good job of pairing up people with similar likes. And you can put in, like, I'm looking for X, and they'll find someone who can help you in that avenue. And it's once a week, once every 2 weeks. You can meet as often as you want with your mentee. So it's a pretty loose structure. And I know they have a Discord channel that is super active. They'll do, live AMAs with different people. So you get a ton out of it just by participating. Yeah.
That's really neat. We love Discord. We have a really amazing Discord of people that really help us all the time with everything from playtesting to advice. And I play way too many games of Twilight Imperium on it, but I'll have to join.
That's really what its purpose is to
just play Twilight
people
Imperium
for Austin to play Twilight Imperium with. So he can't get me to play enough, so he's like, I got to start this whole Discord and really this whole company just to find more people to play Twilight Imperium with.
Yep. That's the whole goal. How can I figure out how to get paid to play Twilight Imperium at conferences? That's what I'm going to go do. You're going to be like, isn't Austin running this booth? Where is he? Yeah.
Every new game, Austin, I got this brand new idea for a game. It's just a new Twilight Imperium game.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to be perfect. Gary, we forgot to ask you, and we're supposed to make standard questions, and that's my fault, Zach. But one of the standard questions is going to be, what is your favorite game other than your game? So rival restaurants may very well be the answer, but if you had to pick one game that you would take with you to a desert island with any other number of people, because I don't know its player count. Is that different? Is it different? It might be different. All right. Favorite game or desert island game? Okay.
It's a hard one. So I'm going to cheat and give you 3 answers because I can't decide.
Yes. Ooh, all right. I'll take it.
So my favorite game that I enjoy because my family really likes playing and has become obsessed with would be Wingspan, with all the expansions and all the all the stuff rolled into one. And I think I like the game as a game by itself, but I think I just enjoy seeing, like, my mom and my sister-in-law, like, they all really get into it, and I gifted a copy to them, and every time I go to play, their score sheet is getting fuller and fuller. So it just makes me, like, happy just to see that.
I love that.
My favorite game that I like to play, but no one wants to play with me, is Gizmos. Super straightforward game.
Nice
and tactile with the marbles. And I find that I play it maybe once a year, and I think just my friends don't enjoy the way that I do. But my all-time favorite game that I will never, I will never decline playing would be Heaven and Ale. That's one
I've seen the cover. I have not played.
Look past the cover. No offense to the art. It's not it's like a Euro, right? In terms of, it's not supposed to be like, really drawn in. Thematically, it's about monks brewing beer. I think. I don't know what it's actually about. But it's so clever in terms of the rondel, and you have this board. You have, like, you're planting things in the light or in the dark, and how the points work. It's just, like, I have no idea how the person designed this. Like, it's just amazing. And that's a game that I just, every time I play, I'm like, that was, like, amazing. So that's my, I would say, favorite game of all time.
Nice.
Wow.
That was a good answer. I'm glad you picked 3.
Yeah, no, that's like I had not heard of that before. That's very cool. I'll have to pick that up.
Check it out.
Hey, we can't have too many.
A brew crafting game. Like I
It's
mean,
up your
I'm
alley.
into beer, so like that sounds great.
Don't get caught up in the theme. There's very little beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
or coffee.
Yeah. It's like viticulture. Well, maybe even less than viticulture is about wine, but yeah.
See,
About the
I
same.
really like the theme of viticulture. That really draws me in. I feel like so. I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it for the mechanics, but I will also drink a beer while playing it. So just to really get in the spirit. So
That's incredible. I love that. All right. So Zach, remind me that that's a question we're going to ask every guest. And thank you, Gary, for being our first guest to answer that question live on the stream with zero preparation. I tried to ask it very long-windedly so that you would have time. I didn't give him any warning.
I feel like you had this ready to go. Like I'm very impressed that I
Gary,
don't even think
job.
I could come up with. I feel like if we're gonna do this every time, we need to have our favorite game ready to go.
Yeah.
But like it's different every time. It has to be interesting.
It is different.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to have a different answer every time we play, or every time we do the show,
exactly.
not play. Yeah, new favorite game. All right, we're gonna have to play a lot of games. All right. So speaking of games, we're going to talk about some games that we're excited about, and this is a segment we haven't done in a little while. But I'm really, really excited to bring it back. Gary, just to give you a window into my vocabulary, we did a Moonrakers announcement video. It was the unboxing video. And it was at the very beginning of the pandemic, and I was pulled away from all of my resources that I normally have for making videos, which is basically Zach and Sam. And so I did an update by myself holding a camera, and I said excited 12 times in a 2-minute video to the point where we made it a joke, and we put a counter in the bottom, and it counted up. So anyway, games we're excited about is a direct result from that. We chose 3 games that either have recently been on Kickstarter or currently on Kickstarter. And I'm really excited about all 3 of these picks. And Zach, can you talk about your pick first?
Yes. Yeah. I have too many tabs open, but I'm getting there.
At least one of them wasn't the YouTube stream, so you didn't have audio blasting through.
So
yeah, like I did.
I was very excited to see. I don't know why. I feel like a lot of my picks lately have been like, I think I did like the big box for Terraforming Mars, but I'm just loving these these reskins and updated components for games that I just know and love. And so I chose Castles of Mad King Ludwig Collector's Edition.
Nice.
Currently up on Kickstarter, over 1 million pledged already, which is wild.
That is wild.
And I if I could, before I saw this, like, I think if I looked at my shelf and could pick one single game that I wish would be remastered or re-released, I'm pretty sure it would have been Castles. Just because like I love the game, really enjoy playing it. But I mean, it came out in 2014. Like I feel like the art style just a little bit dated, and I feel like it was starting to hinder maybe bringing it to the table as much, just because like I wasn't as into the art anymore. But wow, it looks great. Like they did such a great job kind of remastering the artwork, and there's so many cool additions. So, we've got like miniatures and like buildings that you can put on and stuff, and they're painted miniatures which look amazing. Beautiful game trays.
Just to warn you, Zach, I'm a little worried that our pledge is too low because I currently haven't gotten the massive tiles, mostly because I have no idea what we'd play. Maybe in a yard.
Oh yeah, no. I saw that. I saw that when I was looking at it. I was like, "What are those?" And they're like, and like the extra like giant tiles. I was like, "Whoa, we barely have enough room to play this game as it is." Who in the world out there has a table that's gonna hold these giant tiles? But
it literally looks 4 times as big as the normal tiles. It's probably not, but they're huge. They look huge. Anyway, we didn't do that. I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I couldn't justify
I don't. We wouldn't even get to play it. We would just get to look at it. But yeah, like metal coins. Yeah. They redid all of the art. Very excited. I think it was. So sometimes I'm like, they're maybe that didn't need to get re-released, but I'm particularly excited about this one. So
nice. That's good. That's good to hear. Gary, have you played Castles?
I haven't. I've heard of it. I actually I've been following the campaign just a bit on my end. I'm
Yeah.
always curious with these sort of these big box or deluxe fight editions, like how many of the backers are people who own the game and are upgrading to a new one versus people who are like, oh, now's my chance to to get this game. It's pretty cool.
That's a great question. My gut.
That is a good question.
My gut says it's a lot of rebuys. I don't know. It is not like practical by any means, but it's like if you love the game, like I don't know, but I also like rebuy everything, like inside a video game. It's like one of my favorite video games. I think I bought the game like 5 times. I'm like, it comes out on a new platform, I'm like, I gotta have it on my Apple TV. But who knows what I'm gonna play it on there? And then it's like, it comes out on Switch, gotta buy it there too. It's just gotta have it everywhere. But
I justified buying Castles again because the copy that me and Zach kind of have this massive pool of board games, and the Castles lives at Zach's house, so I don't get to play it unless I'm at Zach's house, and it's the middle of a pandemic. So that launched a Kickstarter, and I was like, buy, because now I can have one at the office or at my house. But yeah, for me, Castles was one of those gateway games. It came out early enough. Came out in 2014. I think I played it in 16 or 17 for the first time, and it was one of those games that got me into the hobby that exists today. Past Catan. And Dominion. Catan and Dominion were the 2 I played before that one, probably. So it was definitely one of those, was like, oh, I have to have that. Why I think you might find it interesting, Gary, is the economy mechanic is really interesting in the fact that it's a person's turn and they set the price of all of the available things to buy. And people that are buying them pay it to the person that sets the price. And it's this really different economy system than I've seen in any other game. And it's very, very unique, and I love it. It's a really unique strategy point. Clever. You have to kind of guess what everyone's going to buy or want, or sometimes you have to put what you want really expensive so that you could buy it at the end.
No, it's a great mechanic.
You pay yourself?
I love it. No,
yeah, I don't know. You don't pay yourself. You pay the bank, right?
Yeah. You pay the bank.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's right.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
But no, I'm a sucker for anything that has like a nice economy mechanic to it, like Raccoon Tycoon. We just played that pretty recently and for the first time, and that's got like a great kind of marketplace mechanic. So I'm a sucker for any kind of I don't know, economy mechanics. Anybody out there got any economy mechanic games that I should check out? Hit me up in the chat.
Yeah. Please do. Gary, I am so glad you picked your pick because I've been following this game the whole time. I think it actually ended this morning, but they posted that you can do a sign up for an email address for their pre-order. So if you missed this game and you really like it after watching this, you can go back and look at it. And this was Radlands. Do you want to tell us why you picked Radlands?
Yeah. Funny enough, I didn't realize this ended today, so I never completed my pledge. I think I'm in at like the the dollar level, which
nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get it one way or another. Yeah. So I chose Radlands really for 2 reasons. One is, Roxley. What an amazing publisher. The games they produce are just gorgeous. Between Dice Throne and Steampunk most recently, like they just put out amazing games. And for me, when I looked at Radlands, so I grew up, maybe not grew up, this is in college, so playing like Yu-Gi-Oh type games, right? Actually, Yu-Gi-Oh specifically. The one-on-one sort of collectible card game battle. And we really enjoy that, having this sort of you have your monsters and your traps and this and that. But I don't love the collectible card game nature of it, having to buy more and more cards. So when I saw this a 2-player, not a collectible card game, but you have that experience in a box, it was just a no-brainer. Well, apparently it was a brainer because I didn't pledge, but it drew me in for sure. And then just like seeing what they did with even the cards themselves. I forget the exact term, but they're made of some material that is not paper.
It's called synth.
About that.
Synth stock.
Okay.
Synth. Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm assuming it's some type of plastic-ish of sorts.
It's a PVC.
PVC, got it. So for me, like every campaign they release, I follow. They were one of, like, between them, Eldorado Games, and then Chai back then. Like those are the campaigns that we looked at and say, hey, like how to put together a product. So I feel like just out of respect for them, whatever they launch, I just back.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah, it
the
looks so
colors
cool.
alone just blew me away. I love the colors and the art style. It really is nice.
Yeah.
So I was a big fan.
Fantastic art direction. Like I would have bought it just on the art direction alone, but their video like really brought me in. Like they really sold me on the mechanics. Like I think they did a really nice job of framing like a simple a simple game, like posing, like really explaining the value of the game, even though there's not like a ton of components and there's not like, there's not miniatures and things like that, like, but there is depth, even though there's not like 1,000 cards and like tons of different pieces and things like that. I thought they just did a really nice job. I don't know, they sold me on it. Like I was like, I gotta buy this because I think it looks super fun, really replayable, and like they really played up that like its elegance, which I buy it. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to play it.
You've got a little bit of a Radlands colors going on behind you, Zach. It looks like
you're
in the universe already. Yeah, yeah, it's a theme.
I knew this was coming. So.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great pick, Gary. It might have been me or Zach's pick if you hadn't, but I'm more than happy to talk about my pick because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. So for me, it was the One Ring RPG campaign that is coming out. It is one of my favorite universes as far as like nerddom goes, but then also one of my favorite places to DM games in. I've done a few very short campaigns in the Lord of the Rings universe, but it's all been homebrew. And I've used a couple of the books that came before this, but I'm just really, really excited to see such a awesome remastering. I mean, the artwork just looks incredible. There's a collector's edition that I haven't backed yet, but I'm going to beg Zach to let me back at, or I might have to do it on my own. But the one thing is that I play 5th edition, and this is like a more D6 with a D12 ability die, I think is what it was called, or like some kind of like check die. They say that they're coming out with 5e rules for it as well. And so that'll be like the main thing I'm looking out for. But just the artwork that they've redone and the game mechanics that they're changing, they're even adding like item cards and stuff so you can like find like loot and like actually hand it to players, which is so cool to be able to do when it's not just like, this lives in your imagination, you found a shiny sword. It's like, here's a picture of your sword. It's awesome. So I'm really, really pumped.
Austin, I think we should actually try the non 5e version. And so here's why. So it's Free League.
Oh man.
So I got those covering my face. Let's see if I can find a good spot for it.
Tales from the Loop.
Tales from the Loop. From Free League, which I bought mostly for the art, because it's the most amazingly painted world ever. But I read through the book. I pre-pandemic, I was really hoping like maybe I could put a campaign together or something. That that hasn't happened yet, but wow, I really love their system. I think it's really cool. It focuses a lot more on kind of narrative building, at least in this one, than combat, and I think that would be really really fun. So I don't know, I think we should give it a shot, and broaden our RPG horizons. But
all right, are you Gary, gonna DM or do I have
play
to
a lot of I don't know, we'll have to see. It's so nice when you DM us. You do such a great job.
Oh, thanks.
But Gary, do you play a lot of RPGs, or have you done any D&D or anything like that?
No, I don't think. Let's see. I mean, the only RPG I played was back in college, like MMORPG, so like World of Warcraft, where like in a contained environment. I feel like I would probably enjoy it, but I've never really attempted it. And don't get upset, Austin. Don't at me.
It's fine. No, it's fine.
Lord of the Rings isn't really my favorite world.
Ooh,
I've seen the movies.
I like that. Why? I must know.
Hit us with why.
Please tear it to shreds. I'm so excited to hear about this.
Don't do it.
Oh no! I'm not gonna put it on blast. I think it's just I'm not really big on that type of fantasy. Even though the video games I played had basically that in it. But yeah, it just never really worked for me.
What about Star Wars?
Anyways,
yes.
It's funny,
So,
Gary.
okay,
I was
out of
literally
all-
seconds from saying we'll hang out at a con and we'll either run a Star Wars or the Lord of the Rings RPG, and it'll be great. And I just found out you hate both of those, so we're no longer hanging out at cons. It's done. You can't be friends with me anymore. I'm just kidding. What fantasy worlds do you enjoy?
So I think for me, the only one that I really got into was like Harry Potter, right? Reading that growing up.
Okay.
And then I saw the Star Trek movies, which I was like, man, this is kind of cool. Maybe I'll check out the shows, but it's just not a genre that I'm really, really drawn to. So I let it just be.
That's fair. I bet you there's some Harry Potter RPGs. That would be cool.
There's Star Trek RPGs too.
Oh yeah, there's definitely Star Trek ones. The Star Trek everything. Yep. But a Harry Potter RPG would be cool. Like you show up as a student at Hogwarts or something.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I've
only seen the movies. I haven't read the books, so I know nothing about Harry Potter. No, we were not allowed to read Harry Potter growing up, so I was very out of the loop. So
nice, incredible. That's so great to hear. Gary, it has been a blast talking to you. I would like to hang out at a con. We'll talk about things that are not Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
We can get Austin
we'll talk about
all riled up about Star Wars, and we can get you going on why you don't like it. I'm very excited. So
I would love that.
We have talked to people at cons for about 2 hours over drinks after the hall closed about Star Wars before. So it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility. But yeah. No, that was a really fun show. I'm excited for what you guys are doing next. I haven't heard you say anything about what you're doing next, but I'm assuming there's something on the horizon. So when that happens, come back on the show and we'll talk about the next thing.
Yeah.
We'll be there. We'll be there day one. We'll back at day one. And Absolutely. Excited to learn about it, because I'm wondering if it's another restaurant theme or if you guys have gone into like fantasy, because that's your favorite. So who knows what might happen. But beyond that, if you're watching, you still have a chance to comment after the show is done with the words bento box to win a game of Rival Restaurants. And we are also going to do a second drawing for a set of hazard dice, the hematite hazard dice for Moonrakers. We're going to be picking both of those on Monday afternoon. So if you're watching this not live, you can still comment until Monday afternoon, which is going to be the 15th. And we're going to comment under people that have won and let you know and tell you how to get in contact with us to get your prizes. Gary, thank you so much for coming on the show and joining us and telling us about Rival Restaurants and how it got started. Yeah, it was really wonderful to hear your story and get to tell you a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was such a blast. I've been watching you guys for a little over a year now. So it's fun to be on.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, man. Well, we're excited to keep doing things together. And yeah, thanks for watching and thanks for coming on the show. It was a blast.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. We will see you next week. Actually, next week we have Jamie from Stonemeyer Games coming, so that's going to be an absolute blast. Right. Come hang out with us. We're going to be talking about digital conversions of games. We're going to be talking about their new game, which is the Red Rising books. I am currently listening to the 4th book in that series, so I'm really, really excited about that game. It's going to be a blast to learn a little bit about it. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, bye.
See ya.
We need Max here to